What are you doing?
Timing tiny time pills this morning. So I took a contact. It works 12 hours. 8 hours.
Oh, if you're going to time these tiny time pills all day, when are you going to do the work?
Got 4 more
There's a
hours.
whole day's work in every contact C.
This is roughly the effect osteoporosis has on the bones of 25% of those of us over 50. Exercise and calcium intake help ensure healthy bones. Call for more information.
Colonial Furniture celebrating 58 years of serving you with guaranteed lowest prices and no interest or payments until April 92.
That's value.
This is Mark Papasak. Colonial gives you more for your money and makes furniture buying easy.
That's convenient.
Save $150 on this Kraler traditional sofa and chair and take advantage of big reductions on the Kraler Far East collection. Price to sell. Choose from quality wing, swivel, or recliner chairs now $279. Celebrate 58 years with great savings at Colonial Furniture, 1221 Serval Road and 403 Bank in Waverly.
Well, good morning to our viewers in the East. It is well past midnight, and now you know why they call it the Fall Classic. It goes to 12 innings. Mark Lemke, the hero tonight, as the Atlanta Braves strike back in this World Series, and they now trail 2-1. They go back at it later today for our viewers out in the East, the Twins and the Braves for Game 4. Let's get to hockey now. Recap the NHL tonight. The New Jersey Devils' Laurie Boschman goes in on Danielle Berthiaume of the Kings. And the Devils had a 3-2 lead. The Kings had problems all night long as Randy McKay plays ring around the posy, and he does it. And then later, it's Laurie Boschman with his second of the night as the Devils go on to beat the Wayne Gretzky-less Kings by a score of 5-2. Calgary doubled Minnesota, so a losing night for both the Twins and the Stars. Roberts and Otto with 2 goals apiece. The Jets and the Islanders tied at 1. That was the final from the Island. And one other game, another tie tonight, a stalemate between Chicago and Pittsburgh. They tied at 4. And don't forget, we'll be back later today for Game 4 of the World Series between the Minnesota Twins and the Atlanta Braves. Jack Morris and John Smoltz tomorrow or later today, 8 o'clock Eastern. So for all of us tonight, the Braves win 5-4. They go to a 4th game, 2-1 for the Twins. It should be another classic tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.
In this sport, there is no limit to one's imagination. Sun Life Skate Canada International begins Friday on CTV.
Some famous sports figures demand a lot of money to play. This famous sports figure demands a lot less. The 190-horsepower Jeep Cherokee Sport. With full-time 4-wheel drive and available anti-lock brakes, it can play all year round. Jeep Cherokee Sport, the most affordable sports figure in any league. Come into your Jeep and Eagle dealer and test drive one today.
Thanks for roughing it out. Hi, I'm Joe Roper. As you can see, we're practicing for Fan Appreciation Day. Thanks very much for your support. That's right, this Saturday's game against Winnipeg is Fan Appreciation Day, and we're having a party. Sir, thanks very much for your support. We've got new owners. We're heading into the playoffs. Thanks very much for roughing it out. In fact, this game is a preview to the playoff game against the Bombers in 2 weeks. Excuse me? Should be a bash.
Can't get enough of that rough stuff. Can't get enough of that rough stuff.
Body ache, muscle and joint pain? Reach for Entropin, body pain specialist that lets you move more freely. Effective relief for body pain like bursitis, backache, sprains and strains. Entropin tablets are specially coded to help prevent stomach upset. Entropin, body pain specialist that lets you move more freely.
Starting Wednesday, October 23rd, and for the rest of the week, nobody beats prices like Price Crushers at Zellers. Only one store has lowest price specials like 1/3 off all branded bras. Imagine famous names like Wonder Bra, Daisy Fresh, Vogue, Warner's, Playtex, and Just My Size, all 1/3 off. And you get 500 bonus Club Set points with every Zellers credit card purchase of $20 or more. That's Price Crushers.
Zellers, where the lowest price is the love. For 30 years, we've been the ones. CJOH, we're here for you.
In tonight's news, job prospect. Mulroney's in the running for the UN's top post, and the campaign is underway to get him there. Heading home. The hostage ordeal is over for Jesse Turner. And the Little Princes. Canada gets its first look at William and Harry, the royal heirs.
CTV News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Good evening. The Prime Minister isn't saying yes, but then again, he's not really saying no either. Brian Mulroney didn't dismiss the possibility today that he might take over as United Nations Secretary General. That was the news of the day in Ottawa and at the UN after his name was put on the list of candidates. But Mulroney did seem to assure Canada that he'll still be here for the next election. Craig Oliver reports.
When the Prime Minister arrived at his office, he was met by a phalanx of cameras and reporters, eager to know if he was moving to New York. In a carefully crafted statement, Mulroney skated around without actually taking himself out of the running.
As far as I'm concerned, I have not sought, and I am not seeking, any job other than the one I presently hold.
Nor did he reply when asked if he would take his name off the UN list. In the House of Commons later, the opposition leader accused Mulroney of creating damaging uncertainties.
We want to know why the Prime Minister, if he does not want to be the Secretary General of the United Nations, why he let his name be put on such a list.
And that prompted the Prime Minister to close the door on the UN slightly.
He shouldn't lose any sleep over this. The thing that I look forward to, perhaps most in the world, is meeting him in an election campaign in 1993.
In recent months, the Prime Minister has been playing the international stage intensely, talking up the United Nations, pushing hard for human rights. And that has caused questions about whether he is advertising his availability. However, Mulroney's own former UN ambassador, Stephen Lewis, says the General Assembly would never accept someone so closely tied to American interests.
I don't think that one would want an American surrogate, as it were, in New York. I don't think one would want George Bush's man in New York.
NDP leader Audrey McLaughlin says the country needs a change in governments, not just a new conservative prime minister.
A Tory policy is a Tory policy is a Tory policy. That's what's ruining the country. That's what's got to change.
The government's chief Quebec strategist says this is not a time for Mulroney to abandon the country.
I hope so. I deeply hope that the Prime Minister will remain.
The reaction of Canadians ranged from sarcasm to skepticism.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if he went to the United Nations and got out of Canada.
Good Lord, no. I mean, he's screwed up this country. You don't want him mucking up the whole world.
Government sources say Mulroney is flattered and somewhat amused by all the attention the UN affair is getting. But they insist there's no chance Mulroney will be leaving. Still, they reason why pull the rug out too quickly under something which does nothing but enhance his reputation at home and abroad. Craig Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
Whether Mulroney is serious about the job or not, some powerful countries are pushing him as their candidate at the UN. The competition is stiff, but Canada's United Nations ambassador says Mulroney's name has created a great deal of interest. Robert Hurst has that story.
From the flagman outside to the most senior diplomats inside, they are talking about Brian Mulroney at the United Nations because Mulroney is allowing his name to stand instead of withdrawing it as he could do. Mulroney has the backing for Secretary General of the United States and Britain. Clearly, he is the candidate of the industrialized West.
He's a well-known international figure. He's known to be close to President Bush. He does reflect this effort to find someone of real stature in the world.
His Excellency, Mr. Brian Mulroney.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Mulroney made a mark here a year ago when Canada organized the Children's Summit and brought together more than 80 world leaders at the same time. UN watchers say Mulroney's public standing at home means little on this stage.
Other countries brush underneath the carpet the faults of their leaders. So although Prime Minister Mulroney is seen as a deadbeat in Canadian eyes, for the rest of the world, they view him on his accomplishments, and they see plenty of accomplishments, and they see plenty of abilities.
Mulroney at this point is competing with 3 other front-runners for the UN's top job. Egypt's Deputy Prime Minister Boudris Ghali, the favorite son of Africa. Also Prince Sadruddin Aga Khan, a super-rich diplomat with long and distinguished UN experience. And the only woman contender, Norway's Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland.
He has said...
Canada's ambassador here at the UN says there's so much interest in Mulroney, the Prime Minister may have to review his non-candidacy.
If there is a tidal wave, it may become necessary for him to take a very hard decision.
Prime Minister Mulroney's candidacy here at the UN has history against it. Traditionally, the selection of the Secretary General involves many, many compromises. What they describe here as the search for the lowest common denominator. Someone who rarely offends anyone and never takes a side. Mulroney does not fit those criteria. Robert Hur, CTV News, New York.
An Iranian woman who was flogged for not wearing a veil will now be allowed to stay in Canada. A refugee panel had ordered the woman and her family deported, but her plight was raised in the Commons yesterday. The opposition attacked Prime Minister Mulroney for lecturing the world about human rights, but ignoring some problems at home. Immigration Minister Bernard Valcourt promised to investigate, and today he said he'll override the deportation order because of new information in the case. Still to come in our news tonight, Royal Watch. William and Harry on their own.
It's not that easy for them, you know. It looks easy. You know, they're 9 and 7. It's quite daunting.
The princes open a tour of Ontario. The search for unity. Wells outlines his stand on distinct society, while a new NDP government enters the mix.
I'm going there with the Western dossier. I'm going there with the Saskatchewan dossier.
Ooh, that's really nice. I've never seen that color before. I always thought American cars are boxy, and the acceleration, I'm only using my toes to take you where you want to go. This is really handling well. The whole shape of it, it looks like it's going to go fast and sleeker. It sort of makes it look like it's a fast car. It's handling well. From the way it handled out there on the track, this is definitely an option I should look at. Well, the dash doesn't overpower you with little gadgets. Can I turn the stereo on? I'm impressed. I want people to see me in this car.
More Canadians keep the romance going with help from Motomaster and Canadian Tire. Canada's #1 selling replacement parts. Here's a list of reasons why you should get a set of Motomaster tires. And here's another. Unlike most other major brands, the Motomaster Road Hazard Warranty is no charge. Motomaster, Canada's #1 selling replacement tires.
Clyde Wells waved an olive branch over Canada's thorny constitutional debate today. The Newfoundland Premier made his first comprehensive statement about Ottawa's latest proposals for keeping the country together. And he took a more moderate approach than ever before. He endorsed the idea that Quebec is a distinct society and agreed the province should be able to use the Charter of Rights to preserve its language and culture. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
Premier Clyde Wells insists he has not softened his position on Quebec. All along, he says he has supported the idea that Quebec is a distinct society, as long as Quebec does not receive special powers. He will even live with the idea of having that distinctiveness included in the Charter of Rights, even though he believes it threatens individual rights.
But if Quebec and the people of Quebec, the majority of the people of Quebec, want to some degree to limit their charter rights, individual rights, and subordinate them to a limited degree to the collective right, well, why should Newfoundland say no?
This was Wells's long-awaited response to Ottawa's plan to keep the country together. He strongly supports the notion of Aboriginal self-government and cautiously agrees to the idea of guaranteeing property rights. But while he's encouraged by some of what he sees, he does have concerns.
Well, I can't agree with any proposal that does not provide for a Triple-E Senate. I think that's fundamental to achieving balance in this federation.
For Wells, the Triple-E Senate is the key to ensuring equality among all provinces. But he says Ottawa doesn't go far enough with its plan to have a Senate, which would be elected, effective, and almost equal.
I mean, it's almost insulting to the people of the smaller provinces to even suggest it.
Clyde Wells is seen by many people as having killed Meech Lake. Now the man who was a villain to some and a hero to others is stressing compromise, a fact that did not go unnoticed in Ottawa.
At an earlier time, he was very categoric. This time, he was making suggestions about things that might happen and what his response might be if they did. I found it, by and large, a quite helpful presentation.
Clyde Wells says he wants this round of constitutional talks to work, but while he won't blindly accept any proposal just to keep Quebec in Canada, he is offering enough encouragement to give the rest of the country some hope. Joy Melvin, CTV News, St. John's.
Saskatchewan's Premier-designate, Roy Romanow, savored his big election win today, but he also had constitutional issues on his mind. New Democrats will now govern 3 provinces in Canada, and together they could have a major impact on the country's constitutional debate. But Romanow says that doesn't necessarily mean the NDP will always speak with a single voice about the country's future. CTV's Mark Sickstrom reports.
I tell you, it's going to be a big job, as you know, ahead.
Roy Romanow is no stranger to constitutional wrangling. He was a key player in the 1981 negotiations that brought the Constitution home to Canada, but left Quebec out of the deal. As Premier of Saskatchewan, he'll be at the table again.
I'm going there with an open mind. I'm going there with a Western dossier. I'm going there with a Saskatchewan dossier, and I think there's going to be a big change.
The federal minister in charge of the Constitution doesn't think 3 NDP governments will complicate the upcoming talks.
Their approach to these issues, I think, will be constructive, and I think that we can look forward to making progress with these new governments.
But others aren't so sure.
Well, it certainly means that there is going to be a great deal more backroom block dealing because New Democrats, of course, operate as a unitary party with the federal and provincial arms essentially embracing the same policy position.
The Premier of Ontario doesn't think a socialist alliance would work.
You can't build a consensus around the country if it's seen as being driven by one party or another.
And Romanow agrees.
We are New Democrats, but we are New Democrats from different regions of the country. Bob Rae's a New Democrat and a good guy, but he's still an Ontarian.
But he doesn't rule out cooperation on some issues.
On constitutional matters, the objective here is to keep the country whole. And whatever we can do to do that, in the sense of the word bloc in that context, we'll do.
Issues that might see 3 NDP governments acting in concert might include more federal funding for Medicare and other social programs. But neither Roy Romanow or Bob Rae expect the NDP to act as a consistent team at the constitutional table. Mark Sickstrom, CTV News, Regina.
Saskatchewan voters were also asked 3 plebiscite questions in yesterday's election, and one of them was about constitutional change. The voters overwhelmingly endorsed the use of a referendum or plebiscite to approve changes to the Constitution. A majority of voters also agreed the provincial government should not pay for abortions, and on the 3rd question, a majority agreed the provincial government should be required to introduce balanced budget legislation. The plebiscites are not binding on the government. In the asbestos mining region east of Montreal today, everybody was talking about a decision by a U.S. court. Yesterday, a federal appeals court in New Orleans invalidated a 1989 ban on asbestos imposed by the Environmental Protection Agency. The decision has kindled hope that a sagging industry might now revive. More on that story from Ken Ernhofer.
Workers in aptly named Asbestos Quebec were smiling for a change, and it wasn't only because their shift was over. Not only is the huge JM mine recalling 200 laid-off workers, like third-generation employee Serge Desharnais. The coincidental overturn of the U.S. asbestos ban has made Desharnais think his family actually has a future here.
Or my children for the future can give the name for enter for this company like many years ago.
It's good news for an industry in decline, down from 8,500 jobs 20 years ago to 2,500 now. The crushing setbacks happened after asbestos was linked to cancer and lung disease. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency issued an outright ban on such asbestos products as brake shoes. But now a U.S. appeals court says the ban was illegal, that the EPA failed to study the health risks of alternatives.
Regardless of the court case, asbestos still has a big public relations problem. U.S. public opinion is against it. The U.S. EPA is studying a possible appeal, and even Canadian environmentalists want the decision overturned.
Our position has always been very clear. Any product that is dangerous as asbestos should also be banned.
But even though industry officials say asbestos can be used safely if it's properly controlled, they're not predicting a miracle comeback.
It will not bring back the industry as it was in the 70s. What it will do, it will give us a fighting chance to maintain what we have at the moment.
A fighting chance is all the town of Asbestos wants too, says garage owner Ubal Frechette. When asbestos and the mine go well, he says, the town goes well. Ken Ernhofer, CTV News, Asbestos, Quebec.
Some new figures released today show many Canadian workers are beginning to receive bigger pay increases, but the settlements are still lower than the annual rate of inflation, and that pleases most economists. The Labor Department says average wage increases for union workers jumped to 5% in August, and that's double what they were in July. Private sector wage settlements averaged 5.5%, while in the public sector they averaged just over 4%. Higher wage settlements are eventually passed on to consumers so they can affect the rate of inflation. When we come back, the first day of freedom. The years of captivity are over for an American hostage. And California's catastrophe.
Nothing left. Nothing at all.
The aftermath of the firestorms in Oakland.
Take some out of office supplies. Still not enough. We gotta cut the cars. Oh, I love that car. Can't we save on long distance? Nothing we can do about those costs. Are you sure?
Advantage, Watts, and Teleplus. Bell has all kinds of long-distance discount packages. Call us and save.
Nice car. Thanks. Company car. You know, my company.
Long-distance business sense from Bell.
That was some morning.
Oh, wasn't it?
That's good.
I just loved every second of it. Where the rock was like literally, like you felt you had to take the shape of the rock so you could sort of shift around.
Going up that cliff. I thought you were. I never thought I was going to make it.
I mean, I wish I had a camera.
We were at the top of the cliff.
Good hot soup.
Wow. So who's going to be first this afternoon?
Lipton Cuppa soup. Do it for yourself.
The politics of television on Parliament Hill. Mike Duffy will focus in on the TV cameras in the House of Commons, whether they've changed the way our MPs behave. That's tomorrow on CTV's Canada AM.
I'll be vacation here 40 years.
40 years.
Before the lake's dried up.
Remember Granddad?
40 years.
Except when we buy a new car. Then we spend our vacation going to the bank for a car loan. First to the bank, then to the dealer, back to the bank.
Why a bank?
Dad, Granddad, they did it. I did it. He'll do it.
Ah, tradition.
Habit.
Break your old banking habit. Finance or lease your new vehicle with GMAC right at your GM dealership. Then you can enjoy your vacation.
Some pick 'em for the snap. Some pick 'em for the zap. Some pick that real apple flash. Some pick 'em for the cinnamon dash. Pick 'em for the apple crackle. But don't let a spoonful go to waste. Wholesome as they can be. Just between you and me, you pick 'em for the day.
New Apple Cinnamon Shreddies.
Former American hostage Jesse Turner spent his first full day of freedom undergoing medical tests and preparing for a family reunion. Turner also ordered his first meal in the West after 1,731 days in the hands of Lebanese kidnappers. His choice? A turkey and ham sandwich, salad, cherry pie, and lots of black coffee. NBC's Peter Van Sant has more on Turner's long journey home.
Jesse Turner's first steps as a free man were rocky, showing the effects of 4.5 years in captivity. He appeared pale and a bit bewildered, but doctors say Turner is in generally good physical condition.
I'd like to say I'm very happy to be out front, both for errands, looking forward to see my family and friends.
Back home in Boise, Idaho, Turner's family celebrated his release and then began packing for a trip to Germany and a reunion tomorrow morning.
I can't believe it. This is a great day for me, really. And I want to see what's going on there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Among those making the journey, Turner's 4-year-old daughter, Joanne, who will be seeing her father for the first time.
Jesse Turner had been working as a professor in Beirut when he was kidnapped in 1987. In this videotape made by his captors, he expressed frustration with the Reagan administration for not doing enough to free the hostages. But it was a smiling Jesse Turner who was greeted at the Air Force Hospital in Wiesbaden, Germany tonight. More than 200 well-wishers cheered their newest patient.
4 other Americans are still being held hostage in Lebanon, but with the Middle East Peace Conference fast approaching, the State Department believes it can put intense diplomatic pressure on the kidnappers. One U.S. official in Beirut today said he is hopeful for an immediate and unconditional release of all the hostages. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Wiesbaden.
There was less encouraging news about the Middle East today. It appears that a regional peace conference is already running into trouble 8 days before it's scheduled to begin. The problem stems from the Palestinian delegation named today and its ties to the PLO. At issue is whether Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir will carry out a threat to walk out of next week's conference in Madrid. The makeup of the 14-member Palestinian delegation was announced in Jerusalem, and one of the delegates made it clear the PLO would be represented.
And Mr. Shamir must understand that it's enemies who make peace. And this delegation is the PLO delegation.
During a trip to Paris today, PLO leader Yasser Arafat stressed his ties to the delegation.
You know that any Palestinian will be there will represent the PLO.
Arafat contended that all Palestinians are members of his organization, saying, in his words, "No one can hide the sun with their fingers." His statements appeared to be a direct challenge to Israel. Shamir was also in France today, addressing the European Parliament, and he reiterated Israel's position towards PLO members.
That if the representatives on the conference will say that they speak on behalf of the PLO, we will not speak with them.
But Shamir gave no sign today that their presence would derail the meeting in Madrid. The wildfire in the dry California hills around Oakland is now being compared to the most destructive fires in U.S. history. It ranks with the Great Fire of Chicago 120 years ago and is California's worst since the fire that followed the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. The magnitude of the disaster sank in for hundreds of people today as they returned to see what, if anything, remained of their homes. John Blackstone of CBS News reports.
Only today, as the danger of more fire passes, is it becoming clear just how much was lost in the Oakland hills. California's governor is now calling it the worst fire in the state's history.
A raging fire that consumed hundreds and hundreds of acres, almost 2,000 acres, and has destroyed, we think, over 2,000 homes.
Fire officials are blaming much of the loss on cedar shake roofs that are fashionable but burn easily. Some homeowners, however, began wondering how the fire department could let a small grass fire get out of control so quickly.
The next thing we knew, it was whipping down the street. And, you know, everybody barely got out.
Even after so much has been lost, the talk in the midst of the ruins is often about starting over, right here.
There's much that's left, in spite of the fact that it's just rubble. The land and the place and what you can see from the hillside and so forth, it's still there.
It's like dying and then being able to come back to life without your stuff. I mean, at least you got to come back, you know.
The most painful statistic from the fire is the rising death toll. At least 16 are dead, 57 still missing. John Blackstone, CBS News, Oakland.
And when we return, William and Harry on the Royal Road in Canada.
That was quick. Did you read my... Did you like it? What do you mean, yeah? I know what your yeahs mean. Oh, it wasn't a yeah, it was a yeah. That happens to be one of the most influential poetry magazines in this country.
With the clarity of Bell Long Distance, your true feelings come through loud and clear.
Don't me. I know what your means.
Because the best reason to call is no reason at all.
I've been coming into Ron's Home Hardware ever since I moved into the neighborhood. Boy, the place has really grown. Guess he's pretty proud of that. Funny, though,
no matter how big his business gets. Ron always seems to know what I need.
Morning, Dave. Got that insulation for you.
How'd you know that?
Just a guess.
Sure, we'd like to invest. But with what? I mean, we don't have $10,000 to put into something. Besides, we don't even know the first thing about investing. Well, what's an investment company going to do for us? You know we need to invest. Question is where?
By expressing a preference for the Dodge Shadow and Plymouth Sundance, young people are also expressing a philosophy. Perhaps they heard it from their parents. You want it all, but you don't want to pay for it. At least it's a good starting point. Chrysler. All you have to do is drive one.
The Royal Rascals have arrived in Canada. That's British tabloid talk for Prince William and Prince Henry, the sons of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The boys arrived in Toronto today. Their parents will follow tomorrow for what is being billed as a low-budget royal tour. Dave Wren has more.
They're seldom seen, never heard, and for security reasons, this is the first time they've flown overseas without accompanying Mom and Dad. Such is life for 9-year-old Wills and 7-year-old Harry, better known around Buckingham Palace as the Royal Rascals.
I thought those children were absolutely charming then.
The British press corps has a keen interest in these youngsters. They're second and third in line of succession to the throne. But more than that, they're the children of what many Britons consider a crusading mom and a delinquent dad.
They haven't really been together for about 5 weeks. The Prince has been up in Scotland, Diana's been in the south, and obviously he hasn't seen that much of the children because he's not been around. I think that's a pity, but I have to admit it is their business, not mine.
British tabloids have made it their business, recently portraying Prince Charles as an absentee father, except when protocol demands it, while Princess Diana has emerged as a doting mother, determined to give her children what she herself didn't have, a happy childhood. The children won't play any part in the official tour, but they too attract the curious, anxious for a glimpse of a future king and head of state for Canada.
It's just wonderful to see the enthusiasm of the people that are around.
The Royal Yacht Britannia will be home for the entire family during their week-long visit, saving Canadian taxpayers money on security and accommodation. Government officials claim this year's regal budget is the leanest on record, so the focus is on the family and not the glitz. Dave Wren, CTV News, Toronto.
And that is the news this Tuesday evening. Tomorrow morning on Canada AM, CTV's Mike Duffy is on Parliament Hill with a close-up view of the cameras in the House and an interview with Saskatchewan's Premier-designate, Roy Romano. On the news agenda for us, more on Prime Minister Mulroney's nomination for UN Secretary-General and the arrival in Canada of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Lloyd Robertson will be back here tomorrow night. I'm Sandy Rinaldo. For all of us here at CTV News, thank you for joining us. Good night.
The Sun Life Skate Canada International, Friday on CTV.
Bell Canada offers an important service. Call Trace.
Hello? Not again.
Call Trace allows you to have harassing calls traced.
Gotcha.
And harassing callers dealt with, should legal action be taken. Night-night.
At the Bay this week, our value star is Black & Decker. It's the great Black & Decker event featuring outstanding values. This thermal carafe coffee maker with removable stay-hot carafe, $49.99. There's Black & Decker's shortcut food processor, $59.99. This auto shut-off self-cleaning iron, $59.99. And use your Bay card to earn Bay Card dollars.
You'll do better at the Bay.